district cover?
Okay, my area covers what the northeast all the way up to pretty much the 46 freeway, basically going up Wasco and whatnot, and cuts down by the airport. It's 7th Standard to Olive Drive until you get to Coffee and Brimhall, and then it cuts down to the southwest, and it goes close to Ming. I'm not quite sure there because the map that I look at, it doesn't quite say what that cross street is. So I over there, and then it hits some street I've never heard of. I drove up, and then it goes up to the river and cuts down. I want to say Stockdale Highway out to, I forgot the name of that one, and I've driven it a couple of times because I think it's pretty fascinating, and it's definitely a change from what the district used to be. It used to have Delano, and they traded for the MalDef, I guess, lawsuit, and now we have instead of Delano, we have Rosedale, Southwest, Bakersfield, and we have the airport. We've got the two major universities, or CSUB and the Aeronautical University of California, and a great potential. I mean, just Mick Gleason did one heck of a trade, and I know that's not the way it was meant to be, but if you look at it as gambling, he made the first district the powerhouse, I would say, of Kern County. And we got to lead and push it in the right direction. So.
Okay. And what area of your district do you live in?
I live in Havilah, which is kind of in the center of the east-west line, but more towards the south, just maybe 5 miles away from us is the second district of Mr. Scrivener's. Right there at the top between Havilah and Walker Basin is the boundary line. And as far as state House representatives, I think, Mathers, I don't know. But anyways, his line pretty much goes down the street and cuts right after my house. So I'm like almost the furthest southern member in his district, but I never see him. He's more north, Tulare type stuff.
And what is your day job?
What is my day job? Man, trying to save the world and make utopia takes all the time. If I had a daytime job, let me tell you, I probably wouldn't be doing this. I'd be focused on teaching kids or, something like that. I do have a credential in English and social science, so I'd totally change my direction, and this would not be a concern in my mind. My life has totally went different directions than what it used to be.
And how do you relate to the people of your district?
Of my district? I don't know if I really relate to a lot of the people in my district. First district became the most educated and influential or affluent district in Kern County, and right now I'm a farmer, and I don't know if they're really going to go for the Dave Fluhart for supervisor thing because well, they sure the heck aren't going to put one of my signs in the front yard now. I don't even have signs. I don't do polling. I don't do anything. I'd call it a counter campaign. So I know that sounds weird, but what I would say is around the Kern River Valley, you have two groups. I would say you probably have the Stevens group, which is law and order and whatnot, and then there's plenty of growers up in Lake Isabella and whatnot, just personal small crops type stuff, I don't know. So it's a mixed bag.
And based on what you've seen and experienced, what issues do you think need to be addressed in the district?
I think every issue everybody brings up are all valid, very important issues. Through this whole experience, people are always asking, what's your number one issue? What's your number one issue? What's your top 3 issues? And it's like, man, there are all the issues, and they're all important, and they all combine together. I mean, you can't just focus on a couple and then ignore the others, so if I were to relate them all with like a foundational tie, I would, and this is going to sound crazy, I'm almost embarrassed to say it, but the inequities of men to each other. Basically, it's a biblical religious line, and at some point we are not going to succeed as a society until we start being nicer to each other, and it's just going to get worse and worse and worse, slowly by slowly. And so that's where the marijuana comes in, is because it's a tree of life and liberty, and maybe we can just learn to, not everybody, you got people with real jobs, and there's people out there trying to raise real families and whatnot, but for other half of the population, I don't know how to explain it, but it might be a good idea to actually try. And how about this? There's a thing in the middle of your head called the pineal gland. Okay, and it's a very important gland that's underappreciated and easily destroyed. And I say marijuana is a mental lubricant with a maximizing effect. It affects that pineal gland, and so if you're not educated and you don't have a focus for your energies, you sometimes just spin to be, I don't know. Some people would say worthless, but I don't know. Probably went a little bit far on that question, didn't I?
What do you think voters care most about going into the 2020 local elections?
What did you? Can you?
What do you think voters care most about going into our 2020 local elections?
I would assume you're saying the first district voters are most concerned. 1, that Trump remains president, and 2, we gain back the House, and 3, keep the Senate. That would be a real good start. I imagine that most of the people in the first district would like to see the governor change. And they would probably like to see a little bit more dedication by the state for agriculture and our oil production, and those are pretty big issues.
And if elected, what changes would you first make?
I would definitely have to say I would solidify that concept I'm pushing of a public trust. All these issues can be pushed different ways and whatnot, but that one's a highly ignored, vital issue. And I can see where it's ignored. And beyond that, I think I'd push my particular way of communication and arguing and, I guess, convincing people of doing something or considering something. So I would probably push past the first district and aim more towards Sacramento and apply my talents there.
Do you support the medical marijuana measures?
On the one hand, I want to say yes, and on the other hand, I see flaws in them, so I want to say no. And, I have sympathy for the people that have worked hard to establish their businesses. I can see where the county wants to protect itself. I generally say that between government and capitalism, there will be a vibrant black market about $10 cheaper, and between the 3 of them, absolutely nothing, the taxes, fines, fees, and permitting will not mitigate the damages that are created. And so that's why I say we have to focus on a better marijuana. Kern County is against bad marijuana and for good marijuana, and I think it's really hard to make that delicate balance, and that's why I'm pushing the public trust.
How would you continue to help those affected by the Ridgecrest earthquake?
The first thing is federal dollars, and the second thing is the strength of the community. And the third thing, what I would say, and this is kind of my wacky idea. Can you jump to the question where why are you running? Because then that one will explain something that relates to the next one. But I'll say this: all those empty grocery stores and empty Walmart and whatnot, those will become movie studios, internet studios, just a whole range of modern arts to basically have something to do, produce income, and I like to call it blow up the internet.
How would you do things differently than your predecessor?
Hats off to Mick Gleason. He's done an awesome job. I'd say maybe he was a little bit slow on correcting their I guess, bashing of marijuana growers that have more than 12 plants. It took them a while to realize that was a bad idea. And it took some pretty extreme examples for them to go, oh, well, gee whiz, yeah, let's change this. So they were a little bit slow on that. Maybe a couple of lawsuits, they could have maybe done things a little bit different, but ultimately I could make a whole list of things that Mick Gleason has done awesome, and I would look forward to capitalizing on the game board that he has set up. He's set it up really good, and now the next person has actually got to take it and run with it. Not just play status quo, stationary politics, but no, they got to take our momentum and push it hard, and drag the rest of Kern County with the first district going towards the future and for better things.
How would you work with other supervisors who don't share the same views as you?
I would probably say that we do all share the same views. I've gone to probably 50% of their meetings in the last 7 years. I've spoken hundreds of times. I've written even 3 times more letters to them. I would say we agree on a lot of things, not willingly, but by just the situation. I don't think Mike Maggard really is excited about me making a marijuana public trust and growing $100 million worth of marijuana up in Havelock, but he's broke. And things are falling apart, and at some point, I'm a gadfly, that's what I do, is give alternative ideas and different ways of scrutinizing things and pushing them along, and I would say we'd get along very well. If I were to win, I would be excited about my first closed session with our lawyer.
And when did you first start thinking of running?
When I first started thinking about running was right after Mick Gleason had announced that he was going to retire. I had just very closely right after that went to the registers and started, finding out things, and $1,000 to put your name on the ballot with the 20 signatures. It was hard to get $1,000, so I actually found out that you could take a petition in lieu of that, and basically you'd get 33 cents a signature, so I'd have to collect 3,000 signatures to cover up that debt. So I was actually pulled papers pretty early, but as a useless clown, and that's a technical term, as a useless clown, we definitely tried to be as late as possible. And so we made it on the last day, and I don't know, it's kind of a funny story, but it's probably not in your line of questions.
And what do you like to do when you're not working?
Oh, when I'm not working? I like to ride the motorcycles up in the high country, raft. I like to travel, see different parts of this state. Driving off into the sunset's one of my favorite things. And then, of course, there's working on the ranch and whatnot. But all those things have pretty much been almost non-existent for the last few years.
And why do you want to be supervisor?
It's not that I'm excited, like this is my life dream. you know, as a gadfly, I go to the Board of Supervisors and I'm always giving them a hard time and scrutinizing them and that kind of thing. So when the position opened up, I kind of had to do it. You know, otherwise I'd just be a shit talker. You don't have to bleep it for the internet, but yeah. So that's why ultimately I had to run. Now, if I did win, I would do the job honorably and with integrity and all that good stuff, and with the best of intentions and the best of my abilities. But honestly, to save the world and make utopia, that one seat on that board of 5 seats, I don't think is going to save the world and make utopia. I mean, I think I have better ammunition from where I am now. So on the one hand, I had to do it. On the other hand, I'm enjoying it, and you know, there's possibilities, but I have not done an offensive campaign. You know, I'm counter-campaigning. No, the only time I respond to somebody is when I'm contacted first, and so you know.
And then, do you have anything else to say?
I got tons of things to say, but I'm just not thinking of them right now. Trust me, 2 minutes out the door, and I'll be like, oh, this. What? Okay. Anything else I'd want to say? Okay. As a candidate, you know, I'm a gadfly, and that means that I reason or scrutinize or have a different angle of doing things, which means usually it will be set up with letters and with different people. It's trying to control a conversation between a group, and if it's a hostile attempt, you know, it will be scrutinizing and embarrassing for the person, because here I'm writing a letter to them, but then these other people are seeing either the same letter or a parallel letter or some aspect of the situation, and then when you start letting this person know, they kind of back away and start rethinking. And as far as a gadfly, you know, being unorthodox and being unconventional is, I would say, a strong point in negotiating with Sacramento. And on the one hand, one of my, I guess, contemporary candidates would just be bad news. And then I would say the other one might be a nice guy. I mean, I even joked with him and was serious. Hey, if I win, do you want a job? You know, like, will you work for me? Because he knows the area, he knows the people, he's a good guy, and he might be a little bit status quo, bureaucratic, yes man, a little bit. You know, I would hope he'd come out with more oomph towards getting what we need to get done. What other things could I say? I could say a whole bunch, but I don't know if we want to sit here that long and whatnot. I mean, I was thinking we're going to sit down, we'd be rolling questions back and forth and not just off a piece of paper. So I'm much better in that situation because, you know, I don't know. Any other questions? Where do you want me to take the first district? This is one thing I would say is I'm not just looking at the first district, I'm looking at all the districts, I'm looking at all of Kern County. We're all in the same boat. We really are, and you know, that's very important. I can see defending first district in a lot of issues, and it is different and distinct, and you know, my constituents are first district, but we are all in the boat. And you know, hey, if I grow $100 million worth of marijuana and have a lot, trust me, I'm gonna have to spread that stuff around thick. You know, I made a joke to one of the supervisors about putting a high school in Lamont. You know, forget about Kern High School District. You know, if that money's there, yeah, they need a high school. I feel sorry for those kids out there, you know, and I don't think that supervisor is really opposed to the idea, you know, and there's a lot of different things. So the ideas I have do go to other supervisors, and that's why when we get in that room and we work together, we'll agree together, is because they are reaping the rewards of a good system just as much as the first district. So I'm looking forward to it, and I think we'd have a great time being supervisors together. And I think that's it. You guys are probably like, all right, stop talking, dude. Get off the camera. But, you know, this is definitely not going to make it to the cut for the television clips, but for the internet. Okay, now the internet, you know, I'm saying $100 million of marijuana in Havilah. That isn't so important. It's hitting the internet. Okay, at some point, we got uselessclowns.com, right? It's going to be kind of a gadfly website, and that's going to make a lot more money than the marijuana, which subsidizes the marijuana, which makes, you know, the company or the trust the market leader, and as the market leader, we can direct it to the right direction. I'm totally willing, you know, for the people. I mean, if they want to, you know, be members, I guess, of the public trust, fine, there's that aspect. If you don't like it, well, then, you know, you can just go down the street and do what you want. So, you know, I don't know, there's a lot more. And you're just nodding your head and you probably want to end this thing and you're like, my producer had no idea you're going to keep talking and talking and talking. You get paid by the hour? Do you get overtime? Because we can keep going on this. All right. Okay. So part of the gadflying, okay, is first I have a company. Okay. And this is a little. First of all, if you're going to hijack marijuana to save the world and make utopia, you can't just start it out as a big surprise for everybody because it ain't going to go very far. So you got to target specific people, and that's been the Board of Supervisors for like the last 7 years. So I have this company called USIS, United Collective Exchange and Services. The S is a dollar sign with a possessive apostrophe on it. And it's a health, home, and safety triage care company for elderly, infirm, and veterans. And that's a really big goal. You know, you ask the federal government, and you know, it's a big goal. So we created the think tank. And the think tank thought and came up with a lot of different things, but one was to diversify. So the next thing we did was we started a dispensary, you know, and we didn't know what to call it, and we worked with the Board of Supervisors, and we ended up deciding on calling it the Affordable Housing Ad Hoc Task Force Committee. I mean, that's a long name for a marijuana dispensary, but the goal is, or the thought is if we're making affordable housing, which is a mixture of education and employment, then you can have affordable housing. And that's a good reason to have a dispensary. Now we really don't do much business because if you look around, there's a lot of dispensaries getting busted and whatnot, and this is more at a theoretical point trying to set it up than to actually sell weed. You know, I mean, that's not the goal. Saving the world is the goal. From there, the think tank also decided that we needed to make our own political party. I mean, if you really want to talk about money, you're talking politics, right? So we thought and we decided on USIS Clowns. Okay, so the USIS Clowns, of course, it's a marijuana-based, you know, political party, which yada, yada, yada. We ended up getting an exemption from disclosure based on harassment and retaliation and intimidation and all that stuff. Almost like the Communist Party. You know, the Communist Party don't have to say where they get their money or where they spend it because then you'd have overzealous sheriffs, you know, pulling you over for no reason. Hey, you know, I saw on the internet you donated X, Y, and Z to the Communist Party. You're a communist, and then it just, I don't know, gets ugly. But anyway, so we have this exemption from disclosure, and we actually reasoned with the Board of Equalization that, you know, all of our money is donations, is a political donation, and the nice thing is we can push it wherever we want, do what we want, and, you know, there's a lot of room for corruption, but what I would say, and I'd have to say that we'll push the edges, like not pay taxes, to build affordable housing, to put people in jobs, to get something going where the government is absolutely not functioning. I mean, they follow all of their own rules, and a lot of people are left out, and this would be the gap. And what I would say is at some point we joke about, you know, USIS being the fifth branch of government. You know, I know there's only 3 branches unless you count the 4th, which would be, you know, the Federal Reserve, so we want to be the 5th branch of government. That helps all the other 4 survive and make it real. And I know that's kind of goofy, but what's interesting, is while we decided on the Affordable Housing Ad Hoc Task Force Committee, Kern County also created 5 new committees to help us figure out where to put all that money, because they're very interested in where all this money is going to go. And then that wasn't enough committees, so they created 2 more, which was the Initiatives Committee and the Audit Advisory Committee. And I don't know, it gets really messy. They weren't moving fast enough, so actually in 2016 I declared war and revolution, and that was kind of an issue, and they've recently symbolically surrendered to the concept with their Grounded and Boundless initiative. And trust me, during all this time and all this letter writing and this and that and personal appearances and whatnot, I've been interviewed by multiple agencies because, you know, people are concerned and whatnot. This is the 21st century and whatnot. And the sheriff, he even had 2 handlers come out and ask me if I'd go to mental health, which was, I was like, yeah, I'll go to mental health. I mean, if he's going to let me hijack marijuana to save the world, how can I say no, right? I mean, I'll do anything the guy wants. He can count my plants. Heck, they're counting the money. They're going to trust us stoners to count it, are they? No, they're not going to do that. So yeah, I went for 2 years, and it was great. I'd visit the mental health doctor and, you know, tell him, hey, you got to write everything down and make sure that he gets a copy of it, you know, because I ain't going to do anything illegal without them knowing about it, because then it's, you know, truly illegal, right? So, you know, how illegal am I? Not very illegal, because otherwise they'd stop me, and I'm just talking. I don't really have $100 million of marijuana growing in Havilah right now, right? I mean, it's a theoretical, but as soon as it snaps over, it snaps over. Now, people are going, okay, this public trust idea, well, why doesn't the government do it? Well, the government can't do, they don't even know what public trust is or karma good or anything. Now, to set up the public trust, one, people got to realize that there is a public resource. I know, I'm almost done, okay? Give me 3 more minutes on how this public trust works, okay? First of all, we need marijuana, karma good, whatever you want to call it, to be a public trust, okay? Marijuana is a public resource. We should use it efficiently. And the government, neither the state or federal government, have declared it theirs. You know, they haven't said we make the public trust, and they haven't declared it illegal. They have not said a public trust is illegal. So that means by the 10th Amendment, it's ours, the people's, to try and gain. Now the next step is people say, well, it's not a natural resource, it's a crop, it can't be. And I would have to point to our state constitution, as well as other state constitutions. They have made education a public trust, and that's where you get the University of California. The University of California is established in what? Article 9, Section 9 of the California Constitution, and you know, obviously that's not a natural anything, but yet it's a public resource. So yeah, there's an argument for that, and the last argument is the public question. If the public wants it, then oftentimes, if it's a legitimate political issue, if it's a legitimate election issue, the courts don't like to step in on that, because this is a democracy or a democratic republic or whatever you want to call it. But anyways, if the people have a reasonable choice in something and it should be their choice, oftentimes courts won't step into it. And that helps us, you know, we're not, you know, the sheriff isn't busting down our doors, they're busting down other people's doors, but not ours, because we're very limited and we're more theoretical at this point than actually putting this stuff in the ground.